Lando Norris is world champion. Teams are getting ready to launch their liveries for 2026, and we are out on Inters again. Quacke, it's been a while since we recorded one of these. How's it going?
It's going very well. Last year's season ended in a way that I was very unhappy with, um, and I've just been stewing over the winter, just waiting for a chance to absolutely shit on Lando Norris, to be honest. But yeah, we're back, and that's what I'm gonna do in this episode anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, we are back. It's nice to be back. It's been I don't know when was the last episode. It was at some point in the midpoint of 2025.
It was when Oscar Piastri looked guaranteed to win the world championship, so it's been a while.
Damn. Yeah. I'm reading through the notes
Okay.
now. Our notes is Norris has stepped up his level, but is still getting lucky to win races.
Yeah, so it would be probably around the races he won with the strategy, probably Hungary.
Yeah, I'm thinking Zandvoort it might have been with the engine retirement, kind of. But yeah,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Okay, so I won't keep you waiting for too long. Let's start the Lando Norris hate parade. Lando Norris is our world champion for 2025, despite winning one less race than Max Verstappen, and despite looking like the worst driver of the three for much of the season. But in the end, he managed to clinch the title. Maybe a few favorable results. What are your thoughts?
I feel like it's just like it's bullshit in a way because it's just very annoying. I think might be the word I would use. It feels very undeserved. When I'm looking back at like what we now have as like the championship crop, like the crop of world
Mm-hmm.
champions over the past, honestly, over the past 20 years, I can't help but feel that like Lando Norris is like the one guy who doesn't really stand out to me as like a great driver in a
I
way.
think it's him and Jensen Button, which would be the closest similarity for me.
Even Jensen, I can name like heroic moments. You know, it's kind of that.
Yeah.
It's like the vibe thing of like who's a great driver and how do we feel like who's a when we dub drivers as like future world champions.
Mm-hmm.
Usually we do that when they've had like an insane heroic race, when they have like an insane
Yeah.
moment where they start, where they do something incredible. And I think about any number of races that Max did in 2021. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think about even earlier, like 2016, his first win.
Yeah.
And just the circumstances around that. And, I think about Lewis, you can name literally any number of races.
Yeah, literally from his first season, he was on the pace for it.
Yeah, Brazil 21 is also another one, like
Yeah,
recent in my memory, which is like super impressive. And even with Jensen, it's like, no, but like Canada, what was it, 11 or 12? The one
mm-hmm.
where like he ends up in like last place twice during the race and he still comes through to win. It's like
Yeah,
that's an amazing drive where the 19 or 21 other drivers, I can't remember if we had 11 teams then. All of the other drivers were like a second per lap behind him in pace.
yeah,
And he still got screwed over with like punctures and he got bumped into the wall and everything. And it's like, no, this is an amazing drive. Like Jensen Button,
mm-hmm.
the most I can think about for Lando in like this sort of circumstance is that one time he just put it into quali mode on the final lap of Austria, which would have been I think 2019 or 2020, um,
Mm-hmm.
and got a P3 off the back of I think Lewis
Lewis
having a
Hamilton's
penalty.
penalty. Yeah,
It's like it was cool. Like I was very excited at the time, but it's like it doesn't compare. Like it doesn't compare to like Max or Kimi or Jensen, win or Hamilton again in Brazil, like
yeah,
winning from the back, like winning from so far back, having such a heroic drive all the way there. Um, or like Alonso's best races, Vettel's best races, all of these moments, and it's like it might just be a cultural thing. Like I can admit that Lando Norris is pretty quick.
yeah,
I I never thought he actually had the grit to win because I don't he had to win a championship because he always had these moments where he choked a lot. Like obviously
yeah.
this is the narrative that he's a big choker, um, and that was sort of my sign that said, oh no, he's never going to win a championship. He's very quick. He's a kind of obviously he he's won races on merit,
Mm-hmm.
but at least culturally, he doesn't feel like he feels like the absolute weakest world champion out of the recent history crop.
Yeah.
Just
I
to
think
me, culturally.
if I
Yeah.
talk about Lando Norris, I agree completely on the choking aspect. We beat that horse to death. Honestly, I think we beat that horse so much that Lando Norris actually killed it off and started to get some good results under the belt, even under pressure.
Mm.
Like stuff like removing the times from quali from his dashboard, which apparently helped his mental state during the session. That somehow screams to me that this guy will not be world champion instead of the opposite. But
Yeah.
in the end, like you said, he is rapid. If you talk to any F1 specialist, they will all say that on his day, Lando Norris could be the absolute fastest driver in F1. Like he could give Max Verstappen a run for his money when he's on it.
Mm.
But we just never saw enough of that consistently across the season until the last few races of 2025, honestly. So
Yeah.
I agree that Norris is a bit of an underwhelming champion, but that is kind of where the case for F1 comes in. It is a lot about pure machinery. It is a lot about your second places more than just your wins. Lando
Yeah.
Norris had the most second places. His average grid position, average finish position ended up being the lowest, and that is what led him to win the season overall. Do you think? Would you still call him a deserving champion? I mean, that drive in Abu Dhabi in particular, I messaged you immediately after it. It was pretty good, despite him taking overtaking just back markers for the most of it.
I mean, look, I can't say that Norris didn't deserve to be world champion when he just flat out is mathematically. Um, it just doesn't feel like it feels weak. It feels and I think it also feels overhyped. Like this is a junior Formula thing, but I think it feels like when Mick Schumacher won Formula 2.
Mm-hmm.
That was at the time the smallest points gap of any F2 champion.
Yeah,
It was at the time the fewest wins anybody had had in an F2 season and still win the championship. And I think he did that in the most races. Like even when you compared it to like Nick De Vries. Nick De Vries dominated a F2 field more than
mm-hmm.
Mick Schumacher did, and
Yeah,
and at the time it was like, and he also took a lot of seasons to do it. I think it was his third Formula 2 season. I think
yeah, I think
might have
so.
might have been second, but anyway, um, people it felt overhyped in the way that people would look at the name value of Mick Schumacher, and they were like,
Yeah,
"This is amazing! He's finally won F2. This it's an amazing moment, and it's something that was destined to happen all the time. And he's such a great driver because of it. But you actually look at it, it's like, no, this is the weakest case any Formula 2
yeah.
champion has ever had in one of the weakest fields. Because I think like his closest rivals in that season was um, I
Callum Eilert, I think,
Callum Ilott. Uh,
and the other
Mas-
Ferrari driver.
Mazepin was the other graduate that season.
Yeah.
From P6 with I think in the end I think he only got one race win. He had two, but he got penalized because of a last lap thing.
So P6 in F2 to F1 is a viable strategy. Kimi Antonelli is following in the footsteps of Mazepin then.
Yeah, in more ways than one. But he's no, it was I don't I can't remember if Tsunoda would have been in that year, yeah, because 21 was his rookie year. I'm pretty sure. So Tsunoda, okay, fine. You had another like there's one other driver who at least got a couple of years in F1 next to Schumacher, but it's one of the weakest F2 fields
Yeah.
in history, and he has one of the
I mean,
weakest win
without the
margins.
Schumacher name, would he even get into F1?
I mean, maybe I can't remember. I think at the time, yes, because you did have quite like broad. You had a lot of driver changes going into 21, uh,
Mm-hmm.
as I recall. But yeah, you had. Let me actually just look this up this season because who was actually on
Yeah.
this drivers championship? We had Tsunoda was there and Ilott was there. Ilott, I don't think I don't think was ever F1 caliber. I mean, maybe now you'd say it when he's done a bit of IndyCar and everything, but it's like if you're F1, what is he now, 27? It's like
Yeah.
yeah, you take a lot of Schwartzman was there, who I also don't
Mm-hmm.
think was ever really F1 caliber. Mazepin was apparently P5, so my bad. Uh, Zhou was there, Christian Lundgaard was there. These are not like Felipe Drugovich was there, but he finished ninth. Like it was like one of his warm-up
Mhm.
seasons. We're not talking about like future F1 world champions were on this grid.
Yeah.
Like none of them were. So to me, Lando feels the same way because yes, mathematically he won. Mathematically, it was a good season for him. He's won
Hmm.
7 races out of however many we had.
24.
Yeah, it's like, and it was a very close fought championship between 3 great drivers. But it
Yeah.
does feel like it does feel like it's a weak win. So it's deserving, but it's just weak in a way. Because even when I compare it to like Jensen, and it's like, well, Jensen only won because of the car. It's kind of true, kind of, but he's also up against a very quick Red Bull car with a very quick Sebastian
Yeah.
Vettel. And I think the fact that, well, I think Jensen in a way proved himself also after winning his championship. And we also had moments before
Exactly.
his championship where I think he also proved that he can be a strong driver, he can be a winning driver. Um, so and maybe Lando will do the same. Maybe we'll go on to have 5 years where Norris wins the championship twice or whatever. I hope not.
Yeah,
But
that is my
yeah.
next question for you.
Mm,
A lot of world champions, when they get their first one, most of them go on to just go into another utter confidence level that they will win no matter what. Like people like Max, people like Lewis, when they won their first one, they were a better driver in the following seasons, even if Lewis did not have the car to show it. Do you think Lando will have that sort of realization that now the pressure is off, the first one is in the books already? Now he can just drive and forget about the achievements, or will he sort of take his foot off the pedal, as it were?
my optimistic thought is that McLaren are going to kind of fall off next year.
Mm-hmm.
And like they're going to be caught up. Like Red Bull are going to catch them. Maybe Mercedes, like the works team, is going to catch them. They have the same engine, but I think that's what
Yeah,
I'm
we'll get
hoping
into
for.
that later in the show for sure.
Yeah, I'm hoping for something more, a closer field, and I think with a closer field, with a less of a car difference, it's gonna be rough for Lando. But at the same time, he might, like as you say, a lot of the time you just end up in that having that confidence to like move on. You look back and you look at everything you did right, and everything. But no, I don't. I don't. No, I think this might be his peak. This might be I hope it's his peak, and I think it might be his peak because I don't think there's a lot of
Yeah.
mistakes he can fix. To me, he just doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel like the kind of guy who does. Like it feels like this is such a I'm reading into vibes so much, but that's sometimes how you
Yeah.
have to treat F1. You have to treat it like a soap opera. Is what
I mean,
somebody said.
yeah, for sure.
Somebody told me that in 2019 or something. It's like, um, and that's the thing that I've been telling people when I try to get them into F1. It's like, no, you have to treat F1 like a soap opera, and these are characters in the soap opera. But I'm reading into this. I feel like Lando is like coddled, and I feel like he's protected, and I feel like in that sort of environment, yeah, he makes mistakes. I don't think he looks back on his big chokes and his big mistakes. I don't think he looks at them as chokes. I think
Mm-hmm.
however many times he lost the lap, lost the lead on the opening lap after having pole. I don't think he looks at that and thinks, "Oh no, I threw it. Oh, I binned it." Or
Yeah.
like Russia, I don't think he looks at it like, "Oh no, I absolutely choked that. I should have done this and this and this. Should have been more careful." I don't think he looks at it that way. I think he looks at it like something happened to him, you know. And with, personally, because I don't hear him talking a lot about other drivers. You hear Max, and it's like, no, I did this and this, and I have to improve on that. Or like Oscar is like,
Yeah.
even when he has a great drive, it's like, no, I have a couple of things that I need to fix. Lando doesn't really do that. He's kind of like, yeah, no, I did my best, put everything out there, and it's a shame that this thing happened to me. It's like that's my read on Lando, and with that mentality, no, I don't think he's gonna improve. I think this might be his peak. I think next time he might be. I hope that McLaren take a step back. I hope we have a closer field. It's often the case that with new regulations we have one or two cars light speeds ahead of the
Absolutely
others.
nail it. Yeah.
Yeah, because they just nail the concept in the other zone. But it's no. I think Lando. I think more for him. I think it's satisfaction. He's done it. And then for Oscar as the kind of guy who I think is going to be like, I threw this. I have a lot to
Yeah.
work on. I have a lot to improve on. He's going to come in next year blazing. And even just that comparison, Lando to Oscar, I think Oscar wins next year. So I don't think Lando improves.
Yeah, so Lando Norris, congratulations on the World Championship, but you are not winning another one, according
Yeah.
to the Out on Intros podcast. Uh, like you mentioned, Oscar, we can definitely move into talking about him a bit. Like you say, he threw that championship. Definitely, like if you look back at the interviews he did after the fact, closer to the end of the championship, there is a case that the Monza team orders that put Lando in the lead over Oscar was still in his head when he went to Baku and caused some of those mistakes. But I think when you're talking about a world championship material driver, you sometimes have to put a harsher level of expectation on them. And maybe Oscar should have just recovered from that and went on to dominate Baku like he did back in China after the Australia debacle. So, do you think Oscar had a mentality issue this season, or was it just things not going his way and it's more luck than anything?
Uh no, I think in a way it's maybe we expected a little bit too much out of Oscar in his third year in F1.
Yeah.
Um and also, I am very much of the belief that he got a little bit shafted
Hmm.
by McLaren as well. In the it wasn't really an equal status kind of thing. In the end, it doesn't like when you look at it, it's like you say this, and there's a couple of times when you prioritize Oscar, but when it really the things that came down to like mattering a lot, yeah, Lando was kind of prioritized. So
Yeah.
I don't think it was entirely in his control. I don't think it was his. I think slightly, he made a couple of mistakes. I'm thinking about Baku, for example.
Hmm.
Just that's him. That's on him. It's entirely on him, and it's a big points loss in the end, which
Yeah.
in the end could have won the championship. Australia, like if you remove the Australian Grand Prix from the 2025 season, only the Australian Grand Prix, Oscar Piastri is champion, and it's like that's like with the points Lando got there, with the points Oscar didn't get there. Despite the
Yeah.
fact that they both binned it at the same corner, the consequences were very different, and that's a driver error. It's Oscar made a bigger error than Lando, and he didn't recover it in the same way. I think it is slightly. You need a couple of years. I think you need three years in the sport to. If you're a good driver, you need 2 or 3 years to iron out the biggest of your mistakes.
Hmm.
And I think that's something we saw with Max
Yeah, for
midway
sure.
through midway through 2018 was like his best when it finally clicked for him. That's about 3 years after his F1 debut,
Yeah.
and and it's sort of the same with Oscar, I think. And I've heard people say this. I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Helmut Marko, despite being quite cutthroat with the drivers. I think he did say you need about 3 years to really see the best out of a driver. I mean, obviously you can
Yeah.
sometimes see that like okay, this guy he's not going to be a great. We talked about Mazepin earlier, but even with the ones that have like great peaks, what you iron out over those first 3 years is you raise the floor. And
Yeah.
I think Oscar next year should, if that rule holds true, next year should be the year that Oscar does raise that floor quite a lot. Um, so I think for him, towards the end, like towards the end races, aside from Baku, a lot of it, maybe it's him being slow, maybe it's just bad luck. Maybe it's just this weekend something went wrong with the setup, something went wrong, something felt off.
Yeah.
Maybe it's nerves. I don't know. Maybe it's nervous about like I'm in the championship lead. I'm gonna win the championship, and then you kind of choke it. I didn't see any huge mistakes outside of Baku, which is like, oh, you had this big off on this corner, and that's
Yeah.
a problem for this and this reason. Um, but so I can't. The actual fall off from the lead to there, no, not really. But in the end, there's two big races that I think matter a lot, and it's Australia and it's Baku, and those were
Yeah.
driver error, like big driver error, which
Exactly.
lost him big points. So it's kind of his fault. It's kind of a choke, but I think next year we'll see a better Oscar.
Yeah. So, like all the Ferrari fans always say, next year will be his year. And
Next year will be his year.
we can finally, yeah, we can finally move on to the best driver of 2025, Max Verstappen. 4 championships in a row, couldn't get the fifth one, and now he's going to be using the number 3 on his car instead of number 1. End of an era, Quacke.
It is. It's definitely an end of an era. I'm not. A driver number is just a driver number. But it's the end of an era. You know, I think he said
Yeah.
he said at some point that he always wanted to have number 3, but Ricardo already had it when he joined F1, so he had to pick 33 instead and sort of settle for that. I like the fact that you can now change your number. I like the fact that you can have some more freedom of expression in a way. It feels awkward to me that he picks number 3, but I guess you know you can look at it in many different ways. In one way, you know, it's a nod to Ricardo, and it's like a nod to his friend, to his previous teammate. In another way, it is also kind of like, no, it's awkward because Red Bull already had a driver number 3, and it's suddenly all of the merch that people bought in 2018 and before that, suddenly it looks like it has a different meaning, and you have to sort of question that, like, well, does this hat mean Ricardo, or does it mean Max, or does it mean, you know? And
yeah, all the Ricardo hats are back in fashion, but all the Max Verstappen 33 hats are out of stock now.
yeah,
You can never use them again.
no, but I don't mind. I think 33 was a strong brand.
Yeah.
But 3 is the same. It's like, I think for some reason racing drivers, they seem to prefer the lower numbers. I don't know why. I mean, I guess a lot of sport like people in sports do, but in football I see a lot of players start picking like higher numbers, like I want to drive with number 42, and it's like, why? And it's like, well, it's because that's the number I had when I was a kid, or that's the number my dad had when he was whatever. And in motorsports, like, you either have a number like below 10 or below, or you have a double number because you wanted the other number but you couldn't get it. That's like, so because it's the same thing I think with Carlos Sainz. He said, I want number 5, but Vettel already had it, so I picked 55. And Charles, I think, said, I want number 6. No, I can't remember the story. I think he said he wanted number 7, but Kimi had it. So then he wanted number 6, but somebody else had it. And so he got 1-6. Yeah. It's something like that, and it's like, okay, I don't know. It just feels weird to me that, yeah. So I guess Max wanted to go to 3 for whatever reason. But yeah, I don't mind. Historically, we only really had the lower numbers because the numbers were not assigned to drivers but to the cars.
It was, constructor champions. The order determined the car number, so he would be number 6.
Yeah, if we still had that. No, number 5, because they would have had 5 and 6 if they were third. Were they third or were they fourth?
They were third, right?
Probably. Let me check.
Yeah, Ferrari bombed this championship, man.
Yes, they were third. So they would have been 5 and 6, and he would have had 5 as the leading driver, I'm assuming. Yeah. So, you know, it's historic in a way. You know, we have a lot of good number 3 drivers as well, and now we have another one.
Yeah. So, talking about the rule cycle as a whole, we are moving into a new era for Formula One, new chassis, new engine system. Everything's going to be new. Looking back at 2022 rule cycle, did it deliver across the years? What's your favorite race from the era, and do you think there could have been more done from the FIA to make it more exciting towards the end of it?
I said it before we started recording. I said that I was surprised they didn't work out. I was surprised that we had such a poor showing from this. And honestly, I think what I mean is more, I'm surprised that they went for this and didn't see this coming in a way. That like the teams are always going to try to outsmart the teams. Obviously, don't care about the car behind not being able to follow. So the teams are always going to try to outsmart that. The teams are always going to try to go past the rules, and I do feel like you should have seen that coming. It doesn't feel that that advanced, but I think they still delivered. I think we had a lot of good stuff out of this. 2022, I felt like we had a lot of interesting car concepts with. One of the things I remember a lot was in 2022 preseason testing, we had the Ferrari and Haas cars were very
Yeah.
curved inward,
Mm-hmm.
which had a very interesting aerodynamic flow, which I thought was good, and I think it's part of the reason why the Ferrari is quite strong that year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was good. I think for but
Mercedes has the 0 point design that famously did not work, but it was something unique.
yeah, I like the creativity. It was nice to see different car
Yeah.
concepts that actually had like proper differences that made you feel like it could be
Mm-hmm.
interesting. The Aston Martin also had another thing where they had the side pods. They were they had like an underhang under them very purposefully, which
Yeah.
was also supposed to guide airflow, kind of like a barge board in a way, where like you're supposed to guide the airflow there. Maybe it didn't really work out, but it was there and it was interesting. Um, and then towards the end of it, like 2025, we actually had very not just reliable but durable cars, which I thought was
Yeah.
interesting. This was like we had some wheel banging which didn't result in like big accidents. I don't know if this was like
Mm-hmm.
a conscious development, but it's something which I think over the course of these regulations, when at some point in 24, 25, you would have realized that it's not really working out. Maybe there's
Yeah.
no more improvements to find in this sort of regulations. The drive, I, it felt like the cars were like strengthened, and I thought that was honestly pretty cool. Next year, we're gonna have a lot more. I assume we're gonna have a lot more mechanical issues as we usually have at the start of different regulations. We have new engines as well. It's obviously gonna be a big problem. But if it delivered, like I know it didn't deliver what was promised. It wasn't easier to follow. It was probably harder to follow.
Yeah.
In 21, we were talking about this might be a regulation where at some point we can, remove DRS. This was not the case. Um, but I still think we got pretty good racing. But it's if I have a favorite race, do you have a favorite race? Because I'm trying to think.
I mean, I came in towards the latter of the regulation anyway, so I have much less exposure to the races. I
Mm,
mostly watch the 23, 24 races. I think Singapore 23 obviously has to stand out because Sainz finally broke the Verstappen dominance.
mm,
And the way he did that tactically was pretty interesting as well. But I
yeah,
think it would be something like, honestly, the Monza race from last year, where Oscar, Leclerc, and Norris were all in the fight. That
yeah,
stands out to me in my memory. Something like that, or Interlagos as well. I think I would go with Monza probably because just watching Leclerc overtake the McLarens like that, and then Oscar try to do the same with first he did it with Norris, then chasing down Leclerc. That was one of the most fun I had watching a drive and cheering Oscar on throughout that.
yeah. I think I'm trying to remember. I think 22 Spa was one of the interesting ones.
Mhm.
And 22 France was interesting as well, but that was mostly interesting because Leclerc binned it, and it was
Yeah.
that was interesting for the championship. I'm trying to remember it. Like
Mhm.
it's bad that I can't remember like a clearly very fun race. I guess that's bad, but it's
Yeah, that maybe that is the experience most fans had with this rule cycle. Like
yeah.
you meant, while you look through that, I'll just talk through some of the things that numbers that I've read online.
Mm,
Uh, Compared to 2021, 2022 was definitely an improvement in terms of following a car ahead, but very soon it devolved into the same floor edges, vortices, the same issues following another car. And by 2025, I think even if the following aspect was not as refined, the bigger issue for me is that every single car just converged onto the Red Bull formula after 24. Like before
mm.
that we saw some creative aspects, but 23 showed that Red Bull clearly had one of the strongest ideas of the era, and everyone simply had to copy them initially to get on to the same level, which felt a bit boring to me. Like if you look back to 2020, 2021, you see cars like Red Bull and Mercedes, the two leading cars, are neck and neck with completely different ideas. Like Red Bull runs a lower rake, Mercedes runs a higher rake, and both of them are competitive. In the end of the 2025 cycle, even Ferrari switched to the same suspension design as the Red Bull. Everything was pretty much the same. Like that was the year where you could take the paint off every car and you wouldn't be able to tell which is which.
That's true. Yeah. That's gonna happen over the course of regulation changes, or over a set of regulations, but it's true that it's a bit boring. I think now that I looked it up, Bahrain 22 might have been my favorite race, to be honest, and it's the first one. It's the first one.
Yeah.
Because that was. It's also it's not really because of the regulations. It's not really because of any championship implications. It's mostly just it was very exciting heading into this new set of regulations because I didn't really have that. I came in 2018 and we had changes, but we didn't have like these huge sweeping changes like a whole new regulation set before 22. So it was new for me. We had no idea who was going to be good. And it was a double retirement, a double mechanical retirement from Red Bull. Yeah. And it was but we still had, up until that point we still had very good racing between Charles and Max, I remember. And I remember it was very exciting heading into the first couple of corners into turn 1, 2, 3 and 4. Where this was at the time people were like, "Oh, this is the regulations are working. You can follow." In the end, that's just the way that track works. It's like, yeah, if you overtake into 1, the car you overtook is probably going to overtake you into 4. That's probably going to happen. And it was this interesting thing where, like, Charles was behind Max. As I recall, Charles was behind Max. He overtook Max into 1, and then Max came back into 4. The next lap, or maybe the 2 laps later, if they had, like, a recharge thing, same thing happened, but Charles stayed behind and took over, like overtook in 4 instead. And this was, it was very exciting at the time. And then the double retirement, we had the Mercedes drivers pop up. I think Magnussen as well was, because this was 22. It was very short notice. He had to step in for Mazepin. Quite surprising.
Exactly. Because of the Russia incident.
Yeah. And he sort of came after, leaving F1, probably not coming back. I think he had a daughter in that time as well. Came back P5, I think I remember. He was the Haas car with Max was P5.
Yeah.
And remember that was after 21 with Mazepin and Schumacher, where like the Haas car, some corners which every car on the grid took flat out, they had to lift into those corners, and that's how start the car difference was in 21. And then Magnussen comes in and takes P5. That was pretty hype. And obviously, like, I like Red Bull, but the double retirement was quite exciting. And he came back. Like, he came back immediately the next race after Max won. Then he had another retirement. And that meant he had, I think, a 44-point gap. And then he still won the championship by, like, an 80-point margin.
Because Ferrari did Ferrari things.
Yeah. And that's also historic. It's like, that season is also historic in the way, because that was the biggest deficit anybody's ever come back from. Like, biggest points deficit anybody has ever come back from and win the championship, which I think is insane because it's not that big a deficit. But yeah, it's I think 22 Bahrain just set everything up, and then I guess it's a shame that the first one was the best one and then the rest were kind of a letdown. But I remember it quite vividly, even if it's 4 years ago now.
All right, so looking ahead now, just before we get into the 2026 talk, throughout the 2020s, even before that, a constant social media presence at least has been Drive to Survive. We know they are going to twist everything about the season. We know they are going to put races out of order, and probably half of the episode would be focused on how bad Alpine is, despite nobody actually caring about it.
Yeah.
But what, according to you, will be the most hyped moment from last season in the show?
See, okay, my short answer is I think it's going to be Canada. And I think they're gonna twist it a bit. I've had differing opinions on this over time. Some, like, at times I've thought this, as a lot of diehard fans, it's bullshit that they do this. I heard I think it was their creative director who was on P1 with Matt and Tommy, that podcast. This is not something I say just because we also have an F1 podcast. It's a very boring podcast. It's incredibly boring. Just as a side note, look, I love them. They're quite funny, but the way they could really change some things in how they set up the show, because they do like 4 episodes a week about every tiny little news item.
Yeah.
But I think the most boring episode I've ever heard was at some point they did like a Grand Prix Uh, no, it was the end of one of these seasons. I think it might have been the end of this season. They did like a driver ratings episode where they went through the entire grid
Mm-hmm.
backwards to forwards, and they gave each driver a 1 to 10 rating on their season. And they started the episode by saying, you know, I think we're gonna have some disagreement. It's gonna be very interesting. And then they ended up having the drivers exactly the same, except maybe 1 point difference. Like the biggest disagreement was like, actually, I thought Lance Stroll had a 6 out of 10 this season, while somebody else said a 7. It's like, Jesus Christ, like. I get you're funny, like you guys are funny people, but
Yeah.
you could do this show a lot better, you know. But anyway, they had I think he was creative director or maybe just director or whatever. He was somebody who like works on Drive to Survive in like a high up position, and
Mm-hmm.
they obviously they're diehard fans just as us. They're sort of like purists in a way, and I think they've also had complaints about how Netflix skews things and makes it unrealistic.
Yeah.
So they asked him about it, and I his answer was pretty interesting. Where I can't remember it exactly, but it's like, we know that we do this, and basically his answer was Drive to Survive isn't for you.
Yeah.
It's not made for you guys. It's made for more casual fans, and in a lot of ways the way that they twist things, the way that they re-edit things, it's not wrong in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not usually as it happened, but the context is usually quite correct. So like what I think might happen now is that Canada, despite happening quite early in the season, that
Yeah.
crash between Oscar and Lando ends up having quite a big impact on the championship fight. There's a lot of moments like that. That there's Australia when they went off. There's um, there's Antonelli on Max twice affecting the championship by first taking
Yeah.
Max out in Austria and then also having that small off at the end of Qatar, which also gave a
Mm-hmm.
points advantage to Lando.
Yeah.
So those moments, I think what might happen is they might take Canada, they might take Australia, they might take Qatar and Austria, and just take those moments and sort of clump it together into like a late season
Mm-hmm.
championship battle episode.
Yeah.
And and that's not like it's wrong in a timeline sense. That's not how it happened. But it's still correct that yes, those are the beats that in the end affected the end of the championship. So I can
Yeah.
sort of see why they do it. Like, the only thing I wish that they would do is be a little bit more clear about like, no, this happened 6 months prior to this one. But
Yeah. I
I
think.
think, yeah, I think Canada, I think is going to be very hyped because it's sort of forgotten about. But
Mhm.
I think Netflix might pick up on that and be like, no, this is two of the three main championship rivals hitting each other and their
Yeah.
teammates, and hopefully they were like following McLaren at least a little bit that weekend. So hopefully we can
Yeah.
get some Zach Brown, we can get something funny out of that.
Yeah, so before I answer the question for myself, I will also talk about Drive to Survive. Like you mentioned, it's not for the hardcore fans. Like we
No.
have become over time. But from my personal experience, 2 years ago, I was someone who had no interest in F1. I
Mm.
had no idea who anyone was. I still thought Lewis Hamilton was the champion, and let's just say he hasn't gone as well as I would have hoped so far. But I just randomly in December month when the F1 season was off, I put on Drive to Survive on Netflix, binged through the entire series till like season 6 or something, and I was incredibly hooked onto the entire show. Like in the first ever episode of Drive to Survive, if people remember that, it was about Haas, a team that most people will not care about in the championship, and you just see their one of the wheel gunners failing to hit a mark or doing something that causes both cars to lose a wheel in the race. And as a as someone who is not interested in F1 at the time, when you watch that, that is the human story you are connecting to. That is something that will bring fans in. And as a method to bring fans in, it has been incredible. But yeah, I would say if they just added a this happened 6 months ago, or 6 months ago time card, and then they show the clip, that would make things a lot more interesting for me because it would be accurate.
Yeah. Um, I think the only season I watched in full was the first season, the one about the 2018 season, because it was like Netflix, it's new and it's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember two things I remember was they had this thing about it, like there being a Spanish rivalry between Sainz and Alonso, which just wasn't the case. Um, and but it's still interesting, and it's still something. It's something which drivers might pick up on, and
Yeah.
or viewers might pick up on. And the other thing was there was this big thing about is Ricardo going to leave Red Bull and go to
Renault.
Renault, which he ended
Yeah.
up doing in the end. As I recall, they sort of framed it together with the Baku crash, how there was like a big
Hmm.
falling out between him and the team and Max because of the Baku crash, and that's why he went to Renault. Which again, wasn't really the case at the time.
Yeah.
It's like I still see why you do that narratively, and I'm sure they were slightly connected. Like I'm sure that incident had some impact on and the fallout of that on that decision, but it wasn't really the case. Like it wasn't quite how it happened.
Yeah.
Um, but but I see why you did it. I see why you did it. I think at the time Baku was so early in the calendar. It was like the fourth race of the season, and maybe 8 race weekends later is when Ricardo decided to go to Renault. So wasn't quite the truth, but yeah. I see why they do it. But I didn't hear if you said what was your
Oh
most
yeah.
hyped. What do you think
I
will be the
forgot
most
about
hyped
that
moment
entirely. Yeah.
of the
So
season?
you already took the McLaren angle. I will still go with the McLaren incident, but it is. I think it will be taken in a different way in the show. It's the Sao Paulo crash between Oscar Leclerc and Antonelli, where Oscar hits Antonelli into the corner and Antonelli essentially
Yes.
eliminates Leclerc from the race. I think as a moment in the race, it was just incredible to see. Like 3 cars going into a corner, and suddenly you have Leclerc out of the race. Oscar has the penalty, and Antonelli is just lucky to be alive there. So I think that will be the moment I will look for in that season.
I think that's true, yeah. And they might frame it. This is another thing where they might frame it like Leclerc is still in the championship battle or something. Or they might frame it as like because I think maybe that was the race where he lost his mathematical chance or something. But they might frame it in a way like that or
If
something.
they
But
put Ferrari in the championship battle
that
at all for
yeah.
even a race, I will personally riot.
Yeah, I know somewhere out there the information is out there who in which race weekends they're following which teams. Because I usually at the start of every season we can sort of hear that like, ooh, it's gonna be exciting. They're following Max in the Dutch Grand Prix or something like that. But
Okay.
so somewhere out there that information is, and it would be interesting to see how they deal with that. But again, also that crash, very durable cars because both Oscar and
Yeah.
Antonelli carried on without damage, just like
Yeah.
as far as I remember. So good job. It's that's a rough crash. Like any other year, that's 3 cars retired, to be honest. But
Mm.
2025, no, very durable. But yeah, so good
What
answer, good answer.
What
That was
about
a
2026? Yeah.
yeah, it's good answer.
Yeah, let's talk about 2026 then.
Yep.
Smaller cars, smaller tires, 50-50 electric power split, sustainable fuels. Everything is changing for 2026.
Yeah.
Just hearing about all the news that we have seen, what are your thoughts initially?
Smaller car, very good.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a base thing. One of the reasons why they got bigger was because of safety improvements, and we do have safety improvements this year as well. Like the roll bar is stronger. And I think there's more thought around secondary impacts in the crash structure, which is also very good. A lot of the most dangerous and most like
Yeah.
incidents we've had in Formula Motorsports recently, including the tragic accident with Antoine Hubert. The secondary impact is like the most damaging one. So that's nice that we have that separate crash structures. Um, and they still managed to make the car smaller. I think that's like realizing that okay, the wider cars, the bigger cars, they look cool. You know,
Yeah.
I much prefer the look of like the 2017, 2018 cars over the 2016 cars. The 2016 cars are a
Mm-hmm.
lot more narrow. But even that, you might not think that like this difference in width or whatever, like because we're talking
Yeah.
centimeters, you might not think that this makes a big difference, but it does. Like it genuinely does make a big difference over when it comes to overtaking, when it comes to racing, especially on the more narrow tracks. So that I like. Um, 50-50 electric power. I like that push. I think that's a both both in actually environmentally, but also um, like marketing wise as well. I think it's important. And I like the way that F1 is going with that. Same thing with the sustainable fuels. Also really like the
Yeah.
sounds. Like we've heard one car, but
Mm-hmm.
it really sounds like that the half electric power is actually gonna like it's gonna make a nice noise. It's actually gonna be audible, and it's gonna sound like we talked in the pre-show, because we've seen the clip of the Audi car, which
Yeah.
on track, and it's like if you took the F1 sound and the Formula E sound and you mix them together, and I actually really
Mm-hmm.
like that. I think some people are really not gonna like that, and I am during a Formula E race that sound is extremely annoying, but in just a like just put them together, and I think it might be the perfect mix.
Yeah.
Then it comes to the active aero, the overtake mode, the small and all of that stuff, and I think it might be too much. I think it might honestly be too much. Active aero is nice. Like
Mm-hmm.
I get why they do that, and it's an interesting thing where like yeah, this is development. I think some races might come down to like setup changes in how you map the active aero over the course of a track.
Yeah.
But I think it might be overkill. I think we might honestly end up with, because we have active aero, which works like DRS but all the time. We have overtake mode, which is extra push, and we have um, there's a third one, which is also like an electric. It's like overtake mode, except you can use it any. I mean, it's
Yeah. I think it's like partial boost or something like that.
what do they call? Because we used to have that as well, where like you could get extra. I think it was called overtake mode before.
Yeah, I think in the older regulations there were some features like that, where across this one it was
Push
removed.
push
But
to
I think
pass is what
I
it's often
think they
called. But yeah.
yeah, like you mentioned, they are overcomplicating a bit, and reading all the reports of how it has all gone down, I think that stems from the fact that they started, instead of looking at the cars or the engines, they started with the fact that they want 50-50 electric spec as a marketing term.
Yeah.
And from there they went, okay, what do we need to actually make this work? We don't have enough power to run the lap constantly at that speed, so how do we change that? We can take some of the aero load off, we can take some of the drag off and all that. And I think
Oh.
that might become too much for the viewers if they are not able to nail how to explain that. Like, we come from a esports background, right? So when we look at Counter Strike versus Valorant, we see one is just shoot the right person and you win. The other is you have to count 30 different abilities, 30 different colorful orbs that are flying all over, and then you have to shoot the right person to win. It feels like that might end up being the case if they are not able to explain it very well.
Honestly, a good point. But that's also an interesting perspective where like they start with the marketing of 50-50 electric power, and these other things are things you had to do to make that work
Yeah.
without making the car super slow. But I think with all this, I think it might be too much, because you get too big of a difference between a following car and the leading car, where I think you might just end up with the lead changes being a bit too much. I think you might end up with like an IndyCar or a NASCAR kind of thing, where it doesn't, being in the lead almost might become a disadvantage on some tracks, especially on
Mm-hmm.
like Monza. When I'm
Yeah.
thinking Monza, if you're in the lead in Monza, that's already kind of like, you don't always want to be in the lead when you're driving around Monza in past F1. But I think on Monza in 2026, I think might be the same as running the Indy 500. You don't want to lead the Indy 500.
Yeah.
You want to lead the Indy 500 across the finish line. That's about it.
Mm.
You just don't want to lead other than that. And that's, I think, an Indy audience and a NASCAR audience, they're used to that. That's
Yeah.
that's that's the way it works. It can be exciting in some ways. I'm not sure it's gonna work for F1. I'm not sure it's gonna be a
Mm-hmm.
good thing. So we'll just have to see. But
Yeah.
it's I think we might end up with like in past years in F1, you overtake for the lead. Like your favorite driver overtakes for the lead, unless it's
Mm-hmm.
Singapore, which also had sort of the same thing for other reasons.
Yeah.
It was like, yes, my driver's in the lead. Fuck yes, we're winning. Unless
Yeah.
something changes with the
Mm-hmm.
context of the race, we're going to stay in the lead and we're going to win. That was exciting. And now it might instead be my favorite driver overtook and they're in the lead, but there's 7 laps to go, and in that time, the driver they overtook can probably recharge and regain the advantage.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
tricky.
bringing something back for
Yeah,
that, you talked about Leclerc and Verstappen racing at Bahrain 2022,
yeah,
constantly changing the lead.
yeah,
Is
yeah, yeah.
that not exciting for the fans, anyways?
It is, but then it was like, for me, it was like, okay, that's clever strategy. I can see it, like it's physically visible that yes, when you overtake at this
Yeah,
corner, you're probably gonna get overtook again. And it's also something you can defend against a bit better. It's something which is more, mm, it's more conscious, and you actually kind of have to be a little bit clever to do it because you still saw some drivers not really catch on to this and would just overtake it the first opportunity, lose the position. This is more this to me. This feels more like no, you're giving too many crutches. Where it's like if you get overtaken for the lead with 5 laps to go, the overtake mode, the other recharge mode, and the active arrow feels like it's just going to be even more so that like no, now you have an even bigger advantage. You have the Mario Kart catch up, where
yeah,
you know, and that might be exciting because maybe it won't be like this. Maybe it will be still be like close enough, and it might be weak enough where it leaves some ambiguity, and it's like we have 5 laps of oh my god, is Max gonna get past? He has the overtake mode and everything, but is he gonna get past? I don't know, and that might be super exciting. But I do get the feeling that it might be there's a risk that it just gets too obvious, where it's like yeah, he lost the lead, but he has overtake mode. He's gonna get past. It
yeah.
doesn't matter. And because that's what IndyCar is like to me a lot of the time. It's like if there was the Indy 500 in 2023, I think, where they had a yellow flag or red flag maybe
Hmm.
even, and it's like 2 laps to go, and Marcus Ericsson gains the lead. Like Newgarden
Yeah,
practically lets him pass. And I was watching that, and I was like, and the commentators as well were like, I mean, yeah, Ericsson is in the lead with 1 lap to go in the Indy 500, but the commentators were like, that basically means Newgarden has won because he's going to get past. And I was the
yeah,
same way. I was like, no, why'd you overtake? Why'd you overtake for the lead? You have to wait a lap. You do it next lap. But so I'm kind of fearful of that because that doesn't feel like Formula One
yeah.
to me. But
I think we'll have to wait and see, of course,
yeah,
like you mentioned. But if they are not able to first of all nail the regulations in the way they are expecting, where
yeah,
we can see the driver following stay behind or the driver ahead stay ahead, and sometimes there are overtakes, sometimes there are not. I think
yeah,
that would be the ideal case, obviously. But if it becomes a push to pass scenario, like you mentioned about Indy, that is where drivers are fighting their natural instincts, and that just does not make an entertaining product.
mm,
So we'll have to see, but overall, what's your excitement level? 1 to 10. What's your excitement rating for the season?
10. I honestly, if it was for nothing else than the fact that we have new engines and we have narrower cars, just that alone makes it a 10. The rest is nice,
Yeah,
but it's something I don't know about. That alone makes it a 10.
yeah. I'll stay with you there. 10 for me as well. Every single storyline is culminating in 2026. This is what been waiting for the last 2 years.
Hell yeah.
And speaking of which, the teams have also been waiting. A lot of teams made a lot of talk about switching to 2026 development early in the season. Alpine took 2025 entirely off and hope that the Mercedes engine plus their preparation would give them an edge. Williams also switched early. Red Bull curiously stayed until the very end, trying to win Max the championship, which they failed to do in the end. What are your thoughts about which team is most prepared for the season?
I think Williams are in a good position. I think they've done very well for themselves over the past couple of years with taking steps forward and taking steps forward. I think Science is very valuable. I think he's providing a lot of feedback. I think James Vowles as well, as somebody who has been part of a team doing exactly that, having
Yeah.
a beneficial, getting ahead of the regulations sort of. I think Williams have a big advantage there. So I think they might be even stronger than they were this year, next year. Red Bull, I think have put all their eggs in one basket because they've lost a lot of their regular team. They've lost a lot of their technical team.
Yeah.
There's no longer like the Newey thing of they're not going
Hmm.
into the next regulations with Adrian Newey. It might still work out. I think if Red Bull, if they're not among the top 3 teams in 2026, they might be in like the 5 to 7. They might be a midfield team next year. Like
I
it
mean,
might
that
be.
is when Max's contract starts being a question again as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But it's like a 50-50. Either if they're not up front, they're going to be hella back. So
Hmm.
I no faith in Alpine. I've seen way too many seasons where Alpine slash Renault have taken the season off and they're going to be stronger next year. And it was basically the entire foundation for Daniel Ricciardo leaving Red Bull to go to Renault because
Yeah.
in a year or two they're going to be up there in the championship. No, fuck no, it's not going to happen. Mercedes engine, yeah, I guess that's a slight benefit, but it's no faith whatsoever. Um,
Hmm.
Audi and Cadillac, I think we're going to see somewhere towards the back. I'm thinking Aston Martin could be in a good position. I'm thinking Aston Martin could be challenging for like a top 4 spot.
Honda and Alonso has not been the greatest pairing in the past, but if you say so, sure. Lance Stroll World Championship?
No, okay, if I'm gonna put them anywhere, I would say the Alonso car is gonna challenge for
Hmm.
P4 in the constructors. They're gonna end up P5
Okay.
because Stroll is not gonna get there. But it's
Okay.
if I'm gonna put them anywhere, I might put them P5 honestly, and I might say
Hmm.
Fer- There's an interesting thing though, which is in basically every past season, we've heard murmurings that Ferrari have something super interesting, and they have a really interesting concept. A lot of people think Ferrari are going to be the best, and they're not. They're never the best.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything like that, so they might be
Yeah.
world
Nobody
champions. Like
has anything. Yeah.
I haven't heard anything at all, so they might be world champions because we haven't heard any murmurings. It's just the opposite. So, but no, what do you think? I have no faith in Alpine. Cadillac and Audi obviously are going to be somewhere towards the back. V-Carb as well. Like they're not pushing
I
to win
think
the
if
championship. So yeah.
I think if we look at the field as a whole, the top teams are going to stay the top teams, in my opinion. At least
Yep.
Mercedes and McLaren are pretty much guaranteed to be there. Like we've heard so much talk about Mercedes being the engine leaders for 2026.
Yep.
We are going to talk about the engine in particular for Mercedes later as well. Uh, I think Williams is the one who excites me the most because they are the only ones who can challenge McLaren's driver lineup, and not at the absolute peak. Like at the absolute peak, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris are definitely faster than Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon. But on a consistent basis, getting the podiums, getting the maybe a win required for a constructors championship position, I think they have a pretty solid chance. Like given how poorly Mercedes went in the last rules regulation, I wouldn't be surprised if one of the Mercedes Power teams, not Alpine, one
Same.
or more of the Mercedes power teams end up ahead of the Works team anyways. Like
Oh,
there's a chance McLaren and Williams are ahead of Mercedes purely because
wow.
the team has either messed up the aero again or the drivers are just not as consistent maybe.
Wow. I'm actually the opposite. I'm quite bullish on
The Works
Mercedes.
team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they might nail it. Because they've had these couple of down years, I think they knew quite early last year, maybe even the year before, that they weren't going to be championship contenders in 25. So I think they might have, I don't know
I
what
mean
they've
the
said, I don't know what they've done
yeah.
in that sense. My vibe is that they might be very well prepared for 26 and very well
I
researched.
mean, they can be, but my problem is they still look completely lost in terms of how a car even works. Like they brought the suspension for Canada, got two podiums there, got a win there, and within two races they are like, okay, this suspension doesn't work. We have to take it off again. Antonelli is completely lost confidence. One third of his season is ruined, and that is the team that should know how a suspension works at the very least. Like, if they're simulating that this will be a performance increase, then it should be a performance increase at some point. For the past 4 years, every time they've done something like that, it's a coin flip. Maybe they become the fastest car in the field, maybe they just drop back to the midfield. Who knows? So
That's
that is
actually
where
a
I'm
good
a
point.
bit hesitant to put it.
That's genuine. That's a good point as well. I don't know. I think McLaren might have pushed it a bit too far because they were in the championship fight. So I think Mercedes versus McLaren, I might favor Mercedes. It's also because just naturally when we have regulation changes, it's again this Mario Kart sort of catch-up system where like
Yeah.
the team behind, they aren't really fighting for as much. They can sort of push for it. Ferrari, I think, are kind of screwed. To be honest, like as much as I said before, I haven't heard anything. I think they might be a bit screwed. I think
Yeah.
they might be contending with like a Williams or an Aston Martin for
Yeah.
those lower positions, and
I
maybe a
mean,
Red Bull.
even the driver lineup looks. We'll obviously rank all the driver lineups towards
Yeah.
the end of the show, but it looks closer to Alonso Lance Stroll than a actual competitive lineup based on how 2025 has gone.
Wow. Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's where I feel. But
So talking about two new teams for the season. First of all, let's go with team number 11, Cadillac. First new team since Haas joined the grid, also with Ferrari, but they are unlike Haas. They are doing majority of the components themselves, only taking the engine and the gearbox from Ferrari.
mm.
Where do you see that team starting off this season?
At the back is to begin with. It's never easy for a new team to come in and actually do well.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting that they build their own car
Yeah.
for the most part because they might have a different perspective. They might have a little bit of a maybe staying outside of the echo chamber in a way, and that might be a
Mm-hmm.
benefit going into a new set of regulations. It might also be a deficit. Um, I don't think they're going to be like seconds behind everybody else. Like I don't think we're going to end
So
up with
not the
where
107% rule.
no, and I don't think we end up with like in past years when we had teams coming in and out. We had like Marussia, we had
Yeah.
Manor.
Manner. Yeah.
There's one more I'm thinking about it. H
Caterham?
Caterham were, but they were around for a while. They were sort of up and down. What's the one? Didn't we have like
HRT.
HRT? Yes, it stands for
Yeah.
something. Hispan. Something like that.
Hispania racing team, I think. Daniel
Hispania Racing Team.
Ricciardo had his debut there. Yeah.
Yeah, those. I don't think we're gonna end up with like a clear back marker in that sense.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's the first new team since Haas. Haas kind of hit the ground running. They had a good first season in 2016. Improved year on year, sort of
Yeah.
peaking in 2018. I mean, yeah, they peaked in 2018. I would say their 2019 was it was both stronger and weaker in a weird way. Because
Yeah.
I remember 2019 Haas. They would qualify consistently P5 or above. I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
and then during the race they would just be horrible because they'd have overheating
I
issues.
mean, just
They'd
like
have horrible
2023
tire wear.
hours as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So Haas are interesting in that case, but no, I think they're in a good position. I think they have good drivers. I think they have a good driver lineup for starting out, Bottas and Perez. At the same time, those drivers aren't going to manage anything better than P7, P8. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're going to see like a freak podium out of a Cadillac Bottas in
Do we
2026.
see them score points at least?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think so. And
I mean, that in itself would be an achievement for a fresh team, right?
yeah,
Like we've had
but
seasons
yeah,
like Sauber 2024 where the team barely scored any points till the end
yeah,
of the season.
I think they score points, and yeah, I'm honestly more interested to see where they go for like the future couple of
Mm-hmm.
years.
I mean,
I
the
think
engine isn't coming till 2029, 2030. So that might be when they actually start getting into the full flow of things.
yeah, and for now, Ferrari engine as well. We've heard that there's a bit of an engine deficit going between. We'll get to that, but between Ferrari and the rivals. But overall, I think they're in an interesting position. Building their own car is a little bit of a coin flip. It might be, like I said, they're getting out of the echo chamber with like some non-F1 knowledge, some something unique which might work out very well. It might also be horrible. Like it might just be inexperience, which means you end up in last place. But they're going to be fighting to not be last, and I think they're going to be fighting with Alpine and Audi and VCarb. So yeah.
I think you might be giving them more credit than I am. I think
Probably.
the drivers, like you said, are pretty good. I rate Bottas and Sergio pretty well, even if they had their worst season at the very end, but they'll be fine. But for the team itself, I think honestly, if they are not completely hanging off the back like some of the older teams used to in 2015-16, I think that's enough to build on for future years. And anything more than that, getting points for a race or two, they should be pretty satisfied with that. I hope they aren't coming into the season with just a target that in 3 years we'll be a championship contender, because that is just simply never going to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
talking
yeah.
about the other team then, Audi is much more exciting to me as a team for this season. Obviously, their engine will be a bit of a mystery. First new engine for Audi in ages, probably ever. And the thing that excites me though is that Sauber has really tightened the ship up in 2025. With Jonathan Wheatley coming in, with Mattia Binotto properly taking over, the team looked solid. They were well run. They had good strategic calls from Hulkenberg sometimes the pit wall. Bortoleto looked exciting as a rookie for the year as well. And overall, the team did not have those same mistakes where they just miss the strategic window entirely. They screw a driver's race completely, like they did for Bottas so often in 2024. So I feel like overall the team is in a much better place than they were a year ago, and maybe they can build on that. And with the engine coming in, Audi was very vocal in how this engine was designed in the first place. So maybe they have a chance to at least be competitive at the front.
Yeah. Um, Sauber were interesting because you did say they tightened the ship. I think the place where we sort of saw that the most was just a year or two ago. They would have the worst pit stops
Yeah.
consistently. Their pit crew was
Mm-hmm.
the worst on the grid. They would have the longest average times. They would most often
Yeah.
you would see a driver come in and they had like a 10-second stop or longer. Um, you'd see. I think we even at least once in the last 2 or 3 years we saw or 2 years even, because I remember it was a green car where one of the
Mm.
Sauber drivers had interrupting a drive-through penalty, which is it's
Mm.
such a huge
Yeah.
mistake where it's like it's embarrassing if you do it once. So that really turned around in 25 because I
Yeah.
think they had the shortest pit stop times on average. I think they were
Yeah.
really up
Them
there
and
with
Ferrari.
yeah,
Yeah.
very good, very good. So it's just one thing, but that's sort of maybe the most visible thing when it comes to like how well do you run the ship, how well do you
Yeah.
run the team and the crew. So that's very positive. And we've had a lot of the same staff that are going to be heading up Audi were the ones who were sort of in charge of that and are in the team around this in last season. I think Bortoleto raises his floor a bit. I think Hulkenberg had a very strong season. I'm going to say thumbs up. I think when I said that they were fighting with like Cadillac, Alpine, and B Carb for not being last place, my prediction is that they're going to be the top of those four.
Yeah.
And some races, I think they're going to challenge up towards the points. They're going to challenge up towards, like I expect Williams and Aston Martin to be like the front running midfield teams. I think they're going to be challenging
Mm-hmm.
those teams in a couple of races, definitely. And I think we might see Bortoleto. I think was in my mind he was like great last year. Like in my head,
Yeah.
he was super good. And then I looked at the standings. It's like I can't even really point out what were his standouts. Like he had a score here and there, but I can't even really point out that like this was an amazing drive and whatever. It's more so just like a vibes thing, just watching him and watching him during the race, how close he would often run to the points.
Yeah. And
And
out qualifying Hulkenberg, who's notoriously a very good one lap driver.
yeah, and also compare him to something like Behrman, and I feel like
Mm-hmm.
Bortoleto had a lot fewer mistakes. But I think he's still
Yeah.
going to raise that floor even higher. I think we might see a little, those few peaks that we did see during the races that might not have materialized into results. I think we might see that become much better for next year for him. And yeah, Hulkenberg is just this is the level Hulkenberg is going to have for the next 15 years as a driver, no matter what he's driving. So I could, yeah, it's I'm kind of optimistic for Audi, even if I'm putting them towards the lower end. I'm kind of optimistic for them. And I did just realize when I've done this championship ordering, I haven't even mentioned Haas. They're somewhere in the middle. I think Haas I
Yeah.
might put in that lower group as well, but Audi might beat them. They might beat Haas. I think.
Mm-hmm. And talking about the engines, finally, we have been teasing this topic a lot throughout the discussion.
Yeah.
There has been some talk about an engine loophole in the books where teams are the way it works is similar to the flexibility of the wings, where you can't really measure the wings in action. Similarly, you can't really measure an engine when it's actually driving in the race. So what the FIA does is it takes its measurements at the standard values when it is at a resting position. So the engine isn't heated up, isn't fully active and all that. So what some teams are doing, apparently, according to some reports, is that Mercedes in particular and maybe Red Bull have found a way to allow the compression ratio for the engine to expand to 18 to 1 instead of 16 to 1 as it is in the rule books. Obviously, for us laymen, it does not mean a whole lot when the compression ratio is just a number in the air. But according to some simulations, that could be 13 more horsepowers in the race and potentially 3 tenths of a second on the track. So Audi and Honda are pushing to ban it. It to me it seems like standard F1 play of we found something, you are going to try and ban it. Let's see how it plays out. But do you think that such innovation should be banned if it complies with the letter of the law, but not the notion behind the law itself?
No, if it complies with the regulations, then yeah. I think this one, from what we've heard, I think this skirts the edge of it. Like what I think we've
Mm.
heard is the FIA are looking to allow it for 26, but ban it for 27, which is what they did with DAS.
Yeah.
Because it was sort of the thing with like, and I think they're doing that because this is such a substantial thing in your engine development. If they ban it, it's going to set back Red Bull and Mercedes so much,
Yeah.
where it's just not really fair. Like if they ban it, the loss for Mercedes and Red Bull in terms of development is bigger than the gain they have from allowing it. So,
Yeah.
and I think it was the same thing with DAS, where it's like you've already constructed your whole car around this thing. You're gonna have to design a new steering column in 2 weeks if we ban it.
Yeah.
You can keep it for now because at most it gives you like a slight bit more adjustment. So I think for 27 it makes sense to ban it. But if it complies with the letter of the law for 26, then that's fine. It's not. We've seen bigger, like engine. We've seen bigger loopholes, tricks in the
Yeah.
engine in the rules before. The big thing that gave Mercedes an advantage for 2014 was splitting the two turbos, I believe. So they had
Yeah.
basically, the two turbo setup. They could move one, so it was on the other side of the engine, and that made it a much more compact engine, which allowed them to
Mhm.
have a much smaller car, while having the same performance. So,
Yeah.
and that's the sort of thing entirely allowed by the letter of the law. It was creativity. Nice. What like the when it comes to like skirting the regulations and finding loopholes, there's the alleged. I don't know if this was alleged or if it was confirmed, but the thing Ferrari did in 2019,
Yeah,
which
Ferrari had
was
a illegal engine for years, and it was never. It wasn't just alleged. The FIA has released a statement in 2019 or 20. It was
yeah.
that they have banned it, and they never revealed what the details were. So who knows?
I
Maybe they are still running it.
the rumored detail was that they they have a sensor in the engine measuring the fuel flow
Mhm.
during the entire race. What they did was they basically figured out what the frequency for that measurement was,
Yeah.
and they made fuel injection so it was injecting more when it wasn't measuring. So it's
Hmm.
like you would have like like that's you would just have a very
Yeah.
wavy fuel injection, which it measured as whatever was the allowed value, but you would actually have more fuel and I think also more oil. But basically, you would have more combustion. You would have a stronger,
Yeah.
a more combustion-heavy mix of fuel. So for that, it's like that's skirting the edge because by the letter of the law,
Yeah.
you are measuring correctly. Like what the measurement is correct. You're not getting, but you're
Hmm.
also the spirit of the law. You're obviously breaking because you're injecting more fuel than you're supposed to be allowed. So yeah, for this thing, ban it for 27 maybe, but no, ban it now. No, it should
Yeah,
be.
banning it now would be way too harsh. It would
Yeah,
essentially cripple the Mercedes and Red Bull engine programs for 26
yeah.
entirely.
It's just not. If it's 13 more horsepower as well, it makes a difference. Like you say, 0.3 seconds. Is that per lap?
Yeah, they are saying it is per lap.
Insane. Um, but with the difference between teams per lap sometimes being half a second, six
Yeah.
tenths. Like if you're talking like the P1 team and the P11 team is going to be,
Hmm.
that could be like upwards towards a second per lap deficit in pace, um, on certain tracks. So especially when half the grid is using a Mercedes engine, I
Yeah.
sort I sort of feel like you are really crippling a lot of teams if you ban it now. But for next year,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I can. It makes sense because then you have leeway and you have time to do something else.
Yeah, I think there is some aspect of Audi, first of all, as a joke, being German, so too much abiding by the rules itself, but
Yeah,
also being a new entrant into the engine formula and thus not knowing all the tricks that other teams might employ, which is making them push this harder than they would have otherwise.
yeah,
But overall, I think yeah, probably banning it for 27 makes sense as long as Mercedes and Red Bull, if they are the teams that are affected by this, can
yeah,
get on the pace anyways without it. Yeah.
yeah,
So we talked about how Audi's car has been on the track already. The other teams are all going to take to the track together for the Barcelona closed doors test. Unlike the regular season testing that we have had for the past few years, where every team goes to Bahrain and we see all of them on track, everything is broadcast on F1 TV as always. Uh, Unlike that, it will be behind closed doors, no media access, no fan access, nothing. Do you think teams are scared of a 2014 S disaster where many cars just failed to run and that's why they are pushing for this? Or should some media at least be allowed so that we can get some actual information? Because we saw AI fakes of the Audi car floating on the internet already.
I I like. There's one team which has had a very rough time in testing previously, and it's Sauber. Uh,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of stories around the around the Sauber cars, like having to get their parts to Barcelona, like by day 2 is when they get the final parts or something. And I remember hearing stories in, I think it might have been 21 or 22, when like Giovinazzi had to take like a front wing in the trunk of his car while driving to the like that level of like ad hoc. It sounds like the 70s, but um, I think there's a chance for that. We have obviously with new regulations, new engines as well. There's a big risk that there's something which is just horribly wrong with these cars, and
Yeah.
yeah, having a closed door test to like put the um like as a to break in the car and to see if at that point you are gonna notice that like this engine won't last 30 laps. You know, if you end up with something like that, then it's like yeah you get. But it's also sort of like if you have that sort of issue, what the fuck are you gonna do? Like
Yeah.
if you have a huge issue at the closed door test, it's not like you're gonna anything is gonna work. You know, you're not gonna
Yeah,
fix
it's
that.
not like you can fix it in a matter of weeks before
No,
we go to Bahrain anyways.
no. So I'm not sure that's exactly it. It might also just be that F1 want to get some early data on how these regulations work and how the cars work under these
Hmm.
regulations. If nothing else, just for like a way, as you said, some of these things are quite complicated.
Yeah.
Nothing else, just to explain it to the audience. Like if you learn early on, this is how overtake mode works, this is how active aero is going to work. This is how the because you also have the active areas where you have designated straights where you can
Yeah.
open the wings entirely. How's that going to work? It might just for no other reason. It might just be gain more data on that to try to explain it. But yeah, it's
Hmm.
I think it should be open for F1 themselves. Like,
Hmm.
and I think it would be interesting to have some for like the pundits to have some technical knowledge from that first test come preseason testing. But yeah,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, like you said, I find it weird that even accredited media is not invited to the test at all,
Yeah.
because that is often how fans, especially before the era of televised broadcast all the time, that is how we used to learn about these things. That is how an average fan in the 90s would have found out that a car is doing well, a car is doing poorly. This is how the cars are looking different. So I think that takes away some of the excitement from Barcelona in particular, but maybe it just builds Bahrain up as even more because we hear rumors that maybe this car failed in Barcelona, maybe this car was looking absolutely dominant in Barcelona. So
Yeah.
it has positives and negatives as always.
Yeah.
So livery reveals. We talked a lot about last year's F175 show when we started this podcast.
Hmm.
It was a pretty exciting affair, but we are back to just classic livery reveals and car reveals from each of the team.
That's a shame. That is honestly a shame. I would have loved if we had
Yeah.
another big pre-show, like, because I thought that was the thing we were gonna do year to year now. But no,
Hmm.
it's a bit. I guess maybe it wasn't as successful as they hoped or whatever. But it's a shame. Like I would have loved to see all
Yeah.
the cars at once.
Yeah, for sure. I think maybe in the future we probably see them do it on a consistent basis. Or
Yeah,
maybe this is just one of the years where they're still ironing things out.
yeah.
But talking about the livery reveals itself, some people are really excited about how the new cars are going to look, how everything is going to change, and all that. But I feel like in some ways it is going to be more similar than we expect. So, first of all, let's talk about Red Bull. They are the team that is going to start off the livery season. They are having a Ford launch event with the Red Bull and V Cup today. Do you think we just get the same old Red Bull design again?
I wouldn't be upset, to be honest. I like the Red Bull design. I think it's a winning concept.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a reason why they've kept it for a long time now.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Like the matte purple, dark blue is very nice. It works really well. But it's also, if you were ever going to make a change, it would be for 26. You know, it's a
Mm-hmm.
new era. But Red Bull launches are always very cringe. I really don't like that. Like, it's nice that they do a proper event because some other teams, they literally just put up a render of the car on Twitter and that's about it.
Yeah.
But I like that they do a proper event, but it's always so bad and it's always really awkward interviews with the drivers, and they might have some random unrelated celebrity attending. So it's not. I'm not going to be watching it, but I'm still looking forward to seeing that car. I'm still looking forward to
Yeah.
seeing all of that. But there's a. I'm mostly sort of excited about how Cadillac's launch might be. Because that might
Mm-hmm.
genuinely be. It also runs the risk of being super cringe, but I feel like as a new entry into Formula One, they're going to put a lot
Yeah.
of effort into that launch as well. They're going to be, you know, going quite big to be like, we're here, we're going to make a statement, we're going to start off, and
Yeah.
it's going to be American, which is why I think it might be a bit cringe. It might be kind of like Las Vegas,
Yeah.
every year. But I'm looking forward to seeing how they do, and I'm looking forward to their actual livery. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we've seen their testing livery, and it's cool, but it's a
Yeah.
testing livery. It's all carbon with the Cadillac logo. You do it that way, so it's difficult to make out details on the car.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, but it's gonna be cool to see their actual livery as well. Like I'm assuming it's gonna be silver, something similar to their
Mm-hmm.
past entries into IndyCar and stuff. But who knows? I don't know what kind of
Yeah.
sponsors they have. Do they have like an interesting title sponsor?
I can barely remember who they are
No.
with this year. I think Audi had a few announcements with Revolut and stuff, but
Yeah,
Cadillac, I can't remember who they are with.
because that could have a
Sergio
big
Perez probably
impact.
brings some of the Mexican sponsors in, anyways. Kit Kat, I think, was on the Red Bull car because of him. So
Yeah,
those would probably be there.
because in IndyCar, which is where we mostly seen Cadillac. No, sorry, in
Yeah.
IMSA is mostly where we've seen Cadillac. But there, am I wrong to say that this Cadillac team is connected to Andretti somehow?
Yes, they are.
Yeah,
Essentially, it's the Andretti project renamed.
yeah. And Andretti have a lot of the time, like the title sponsor and the main sponsor changes the car a lot. So you have like a DHL car, and
Okay.
that can actually do quite a lot in IndyCar for like how the car looks. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that works out. But yeah, that one I'm looking forward to, and I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
one of my favorite liveries to see every year is Haas, because they usually do.
Hmm.
Even if their launch is crap, it's just social media. It's usually a cool looking livery, and I
This year
like.
we've got the Toyota aspect as well for Haas, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be a bit of
Yeah.
a Toyota Gazoo thing.
Hmm.
It fits their color scheme of black, white, and red, but it's.
Yeah.
I hope they do something cool with it.
Yeah. Uh, like you said, Red Bull's car is iconic, but I honestly am more excited about their sister team, VCarb.
Yeah,
Last year, VCarb had easily one of, if not the best livery of the year. And seeing what they do next, like for 2 years, they have had banger after banger. First the Toro Rosso, then the White Bull. Now, what will they do for season three? Will they stick with the same thing? Will they do something new? I think that is the one I'm most excited for.
okay, VCarb, they actually had two of the best liveries of last year
Yeah.
because their Miami livery was amazing with the summer edition.
Yeah.
And okay, look, if they were gonna do a cool testing livery, like a cool testing
Hmm.
livery rather than doing like a all carbon kind of thing, I've been sipping this winter edition. It would be would be cool to see something like that. Because they used to do that. They used to do like the
Yeah, the very first Red Bull car was the Red Bull can itself, basically.
yeah, and the I think 2018 or 2019 Toro Rosso, like the front wing had like because they used to, at that point they were pushing a lot with like mixers. With like their Red Bull Cola and like their Red Bull Tonic. The front wing was branded just like that can. And I was 17 at that point, and me and my friend really liked the Red Bull Cola, so we thought that was really cool. I don't think they sell it anymore. It's a shame. So it would be cool. Like, I like drinking Red Bulls. It would be cool if they did something like that, because the Miami one is obviously they had the same color scheme for the summer edition Red Bull can. And that was awesome. I love that pink car. So I hope they do something like that. But yeah, last year's the proper V-carb livery as well was obviously sick. Like the white really works with like the Red Bull, the usual Red Bull colors, the yellow and red. It's the same reason why the Japan Red Bull car was awesome.
That Japan car was awesome.
And the one they ran in Turkey a couple of years ago as well, in 21 I think, because that was supposed to be in Japan. But they had to run it in Turkey instead. That was also sick. So, yeah, I like that.
Keeping the focus on Vika for a little bit more, Arvid Lindblad is coming over to F1. Swedish, UK, Indian, all sorts of heritage. He was basically made for the Out on Inters podcast at this point. So, how excited are you for Arvid to join F1?
I'm honestly, weirdly enough, I'm not that excited. I don't know a lot about him. He's for me, it's weird to watch F2 now, because basically where you finish doesn't matter. Which is just completely foreign to me, because it's like no. Okay, so you're telling me that like the top 5 of the F2 championship, almost 100 points, like 100 points from P1 to P6 in the championship. You're telling me those 5 are not good enough for Formula 1, but then the P6 driver is good enough, and to me it just intuitively it doesn't make a lot of sense. I think there's Red Bull Juniors ahead of Lindblad in last year's Formula 2 World Championship. But you're still picking Lindblad? It feels super weird to me. So for that, it doesn't really make sense. But people say he's good. We'll see. Like his first proper test for me is gonna be that V-carb. It's not gonna be because I don't know what to think about this Formula 2 season. And yeah, but that's interesting. I think it's a shame that we end up losing because Yuki's not on the grid next year. I think that's a shame. I think no matter how good Arvid Lindblad is going to be, Yuki would have been better. I hope we see him back. I hope we see him back in maybe an Aston Martin next year or something like that, which has been talked about for years now. But I hope that's what ends up happening. And it's always exciting to have a rookie. I'm just not that excited about Lindblad in particular.
Yeah, he might not be exciting, but at least he's going to win Rookie of the Year anyways.
That's true. Do they still hand out Rookie of the Year when there's only one rookie?
Yes. Actually, I don't think they do it for the F1 rookie anymore, because Oscar did not win it any of the years, I think.
You might be right.
Stuff like that.
But
Antonelli didn't get it last year. Hajar didn't get it last year. It was some karting kid, I think, who won.
Yeah, can I ask you a question though? Who do you think replaces Colapinto mid-season? Because that might be rookie.
That is a weird one for me actually, because Alpine has basically cleared out their slate with their reserve drivers now. Jack Doohan is gone. I think Paul Aaron might be doing some WEC alongside his program now.
Yeah.
So it might be tough for them to put someone in. And even those who are outside the F1 program, I mean, who really stands out? Tsunoda is the recent one who has departed, but I don't think Tsunoda is that exciting for Alpine to bring in.
No. I don't think I'm not sure they have like because Alpine do have a junior program as well in Formula 2, but I'm not sure they have anybody interesting there. Victor Martins.
So it might just be Colapinto for the whole year, and then they someone else for 2027.
Colton Herta is driving F2.
I mean, do you think he's going to jump from Cadillac to Alpine?
Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. 18 years old. He's also driving F2. You
Yeah.
know, you have the like a
Pablo
Red Bull
Montoya's son is also in there,
driver
I
right
think.
now.
Sebastian Montoya.
Yeah, he is. But you have like
Hmm.
some, you could go different ways. No, I look, I'm not sure I'm not sure Colapinto gets replaced.
Yeah.
I'm just like, if anybody's gonna make an insane roster move, it would be Colapinto go out for seemingly no reason other than the fact that he can't finish higher than 13th, and then just bring somebody else who also can't finish any higher than 13th. It's the kind of
Yeah.
move they make. So I I don't know, but yeah, we'll see what happens there. But yeah.
Yeah. The one exciting F2 prospect that we haven't mentioned yet is Alex Dunn, who
Mm-hmm.
last year, for those who are unaware, Alex Dunn was a McLaren junior for most of last year. Towards the end of the season, they announced that they had different visions for where his future lies. McLaren obviously cannot promote a junior to their team right now with the number one and number two driver in the world championship in their ranks right now. So Alex Dunn ended up leaving the academy, and then he had flirtations with Alpine, flirtations with Red Bull. Alpine eventually fell out, but Helmut Marko apparently just went out on a limb and signed him to the Red Bull driver program without consulting with anyone from Red Bull. So that has led to one of the most exciting news of the offseason. Helmut Marko is finally gone from F1. I think, obviously, with all due respect to his 50% vision of bringing drivers into the program, he still was just a dinosaur out of his time now.
It's true. I think it's very interesting that he's gone because it is very much also the end of an era in a way.
Yeah.
But he said I can't remember what he said. He said something which was genuinely very weird.
I
In
think right afterwards he was mentioning that stuff like him calling Sergio Perez, him having racist remarks about Sergio Perez being Mexican was somehow planted by Horner into the media, which
yeah,
I don't know how it works when it's coming out of his own mouth, but sure.
sure. No, it's the end of an era, and it's again this sort of thing about how Red Bull has had in just 1 year's time a lot has changed. So because
Yeah. Hmm.
you have Christian Horner, he left last year, right?
Yeah.
You have Adrian Newey is no longer
New Year
with them.
left before that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's with Aston Martin. You now have no Helmut Marko either managing the drivers.
Yeah.
It's
And
sort
on
of
top
like
of that, Max's one of the lead mechanics on his car has left the team as well. He's
yeah,
doing his own book tour and everything now. One of his performance engineers has left as well, from what I've been reading on the news. And on top of all of that, there was also the rumor that GP might be leaving for Aston Martin this year,
yeah,
which has finally been shut down. But that is just the turmoil at Red Bull that is still going on somehow.
yeah. So that's interesting, and Marco is obviously a big part of that. And to his credit, like he's done some good work, and I don't think in a way I can sort of see his vision when he's cutthroat with these drivers.
Yeah.
How he's very tough, how he's very he puts them into a car, like throws them into the deep end, and then pulls them out quite quickly, and
Yeah.
I can see the vision behind it, and maybe he does just have that sort of eye where like no, I only need 8 races to see that.
Hmm.
Or maybe I only need 2 races to see that Liam Lawson is not going to be a good Red Bull driver. Let's put Tsunoda
Yeah.
in instead. So maybe he has that. I don't know, but it's interesting that he's gone. It's an interesting saga, but yeah. So just to repeat this, Red Bull wanted to sign Alex Dunn.
No, Red Bull apparently had no idea that they were wanting to sign Alex Dunn.
Oh,
Alex Dunn basically got signed by Helmut Marko on behalf of Red Bull without informing the organization at all. And Red Bull had to pay out of pocket to break his contract and get him out of the door again.
wow. Okay, now I
Yeah.
get it. All right. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. You wouldn't get that in esports.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, wow, that's interesting. It's I don't know anything about Alex Dunn either. I've seen him drive a little bit, and he's good. But
He was in the McLaren FP1 for two races, I think, and he was very impressive in the latter one he did. I think he replaced Lando Norris in one of the race weekends and was absolutely on the pace from the very start of the session. So
yeah,
he
you're right.
was a very exciting junior, but I think the whole Red Bull saga, might just screw him out of a race seat in the future.
You might be right. You might be right, because that's the sort
Yeah.
of thing which looks bad. And even if he didn't really play a part in it, it's like it's the kind of thing which makes him look like a uncertain, like a
Hmm.
a um, a liability perhaps. But yeah.
Yeah. So, in your eyes, you mentioned the top five not getting brought to F1 this year. Did anyone else from F2 deserve a call up to an F1 race seat, maybe replacing Liam Lawson in VCAP?
Replacing Liam Lawson. To me, the weakest driver of last year was Colapinto. Um,
Hmm.
I think there's several drivers here who are good. It's very tricky because you can sort of see, well, why wasn't the world champion called up? Like Leonardo Fornaroli.
Yeah.
Um, very impressive. Also, doing the Piastri, only a couple of drivers who have managed to win F3 and F2 back to back.
Yeah.
So, um, and he did that. He won
Yeah.
in
Leclerc,
2024.
Russell, Piastri, and then Bortoleto and him now.
Yeah. So doing that and still not even getting thought of for a Formula One race kind of really shows that, like, if you're not in one of these academy programs. I think he is in the McLaren driver development program, but McLaren are obviously not doing anything. Like,
Yeah.
um, I'm not sure. Yeah, who's in there right now? It's Pato O'Ward and Leonardo Fornaroli, and then a bunch of drivers I haven't heard about, and Richard Verschoor, who is
Yeah.
obviously,
Who is on his way out now from
yeah,
F2
he's
itself.
he's driving Le Mans
Hmm.
for. They actually wait. What? They actually just signed him. All right. Oh, and McLaren just signed Fornaroli as well from 2026. I guess that's
Yes.
why he didn't get promoted. He might be promoted in another time. But no, it just doesn't really make sense to me in
Yeah,
that
I
way.
think the issue is similar to the one we had with the Sauber Junior, who I'm forgetting, Theo Pocher and Dragovic after that. I think the
Yeah,
top teams have just nailed their driver lineups right now. And on top of that, they all have a third guy who they are very confident about, who will be the next on the ranks.
yeah,
Like if you look at Mercedes, they have just gotten Antonelli. He's not going anywhere. They are happy with Russell as well. He's got a multi-year contract now. You look
yeah.
at Ferrari. The moment Lewis Hamilton decides to retire, Ollie Behrman is definitely getting a call up. Like
Probably right.
honestly, there is an aspect too where maybe if they called him up last year, they would have placed better. But that's a discussion for another time, probably.
Hot take. Yeah.
Yeah. So all these teams have their driver lineup set. They don't need a new driver. That might be why these guys are not getting the call up. Last year we had six rookies come in, so maybe it will take a couple more years before we have another exodus again.
Yeah. And Porsche was a tricky one as well because he was touted as like a future F1 world champion, and then he just didn't
Yeah.
really impress in Formula 2. Um, and it's not a guarantee. Obviously, Fornaroli might not have, maybe he might not have been good in F1. It's never a guarantee.
Mhm.
Stoffel Van Dorn won in GP2, and he was a fine
Yeah.
enough Formula One driver. But people who touted him as like McLaren's future hot prospect, no, they were wrong.
Yeah.
So it's not a guarantee, but it does feel weird. And I'm wondering, Fornaroli obviously can't continue in F2. That's the interesting thing about F2 is that you cannot continue in the next year. So I'm more interested in the P2 driver, Jack Crawford, the American.
Hmm.
I'm thinking that he was previously with Red Bull. He's not in. He's now in. He's an Aston Martin reserve driver.
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested in maybe him for Cadillac at some point in the future
Oh.
because
Okay.
I
Because
feel like
America. Yeah.
he's American. I think he's done a little bit of like something over there. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think maybe he's done like some IndyCar stuff. No, I'm actually completely wrong. He's been in Europe for all of his career.
Yeah.
Uh, I mix him up with there's an IndyCar driver who has a similar name, but anyway, um, P2 in Formula 2 this year or last year. He's obviously one of the front runners for winning F2
Yeah.
next year. He's American. He's connected to an F1 team already. Like he's
Hmm.
probably I don't know if he's already done F1 tests. I think maybe
I
he's
think he
done
did an FP1 recently.
Mexico and Abu Dhabi. So he did two last year,
Hmm.
and he's probably gonna do a couple of next year as well with Aston Martin. Cadillac, maybe I think I would assume for 2027 they want to keep Perez and Bottas, but if
Yeah.
one of them turns out to be quite bad, they might look at somebody like a Crawford for 27. And depending on how the year goes, they might feel like, no, no, now we need somebody who can punch upwards, somebody who can develop
Hmm.
with us. So I could see that. That would be interesting. But
Yeah, sticking to the rookies theme then.
yeah,
We had a lot of rookies come in for 2025. They had all sorts of seasons. Jack Doohan obviously out of F1 entirely. Meanwhile, Antonelli is up at the front fighting for everything with Mercedes. Hajar is now in the mix with Red Bull next year. Who who do you think will have the best second year in Formula One? Like Oscar Piastri's 2024 was obviously up there. He had a win in Budapest, it was, I think, and one of the best seasons we've seen from a rookie that early in his career. So, who do you think will have the best second year?
Antonelli feels like the favorite for this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no matter if you go by like championship position or if you go by um, just subjectively best. I think
Yeah.
maybe the best rook. I can't No, we didn't really do rookie of the year since we haven't done an episode in a while. But I think Hadjar probably had the best
Yeah,
rookie
I think
season in
Hajar
25.
would be the rookie of the year for me as well.
But he's also thrown into the deep end of Red Bull, and like if the
Yeah.
pattern continues, again, this is another thing though. It's like we've had a lot of staff changes. The new team principal
Mm-hmm.
is from RB.
Week up. Yeah.
Things could look very different for Hadjar than it has done for past rookies who have been thrown into Formula One or into the main team.
Yeah.
Um, I don't see a big season out of Lawson, Bortoletto and Behrman. It's like I think they'll do better than last year, and they already did pretty good last year. It's just
Yeah.
they're gonna have to do very good for me to compare them to Antonelli and Hadjar in terms of the
Since they're
level
up
they're
at the
driving
front.
in.
Yeah.
And Colapinto, I used to like Colapinto a lot. I think he had good pace.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think he's that good, and I would have expected more
Yeah.
development at this point. It's Colapinto I think might have the worst out of all of them next year.
Yeah.
So I'd probably like my gut tells me Antonelli.
Mm-hmm.
I could see Behrman. Behrman is already very good.
Yeah. I was actually going to pick Behrman as my
Yeah,
pick because I thought you would go for the one of the front runners.
yeah, it's
Behrman
fair.
this year already demolished Ocon consistently. He was the faster Haas driver for sure. Ocon
Yeah,
had one or two canny races where he just stays out, gets a few points for the team. That is good. But a first year driver should not be looking like the more complete driver than Ocon, who is a race winner and everything.
yeah, not next to Ocon now.
Yeah, so next year maybe we just see Behrman completely outclass Ocon, and that's how he establishes himself as Ferrari's driver.
Yeah, it could be Behrman. He's also in a different sort of pressure environment.
Yeah.
Haas are, like I said, sort of middle of the pack. I think they're looking to go forwards,
Hmm.
and if Behrman can get them from what were they, P6, P7, something like that.
Yeah.
If Behrman can take them
I think
up
that. Yeah.
from, oh, they were eighth even. Damn.
Oh.
If Behrman can take them from eighth to seventh, that's
Hmm.
very good. If he can take them to sixth next, if he can put them in the
Yeah.
fight there with the Williams and Aston Martin, which I think is going to be the fight up front there. If he can put them up there, then ooh, that's very
Yeah.
good. And that's suddenly like a second year that I look at it and it's like, no, no, you are maybe a top 7 driver on the entire grid at that point
Yeah.
ish. So very good. So for that reason, yeah, it could be Behrman. That's still like it's
Hmm.
not a massive achievement. It's a couple of races where you consistently manage to maybe score P7s, but
Yeah.
P7s, P8s. It's a couple of those races. Maybe a freak podium out there, but
Hmm.
you that's a relatively easy bar to clear for a good driver, but it's still very impressive and it's still a very good
Yeah.
second year. So I could see that. Yeah, that's like Antonelli. For Antonelli, I think he needs to get one or maybe even multiple race wins. For Hadjar,
Yeah. I think the
yeah,
bar for Antonelli and Hajar to be the best second year is just way higher than it is for
yeah,
Behrman because they will have a competitive car in most of the scenarios.
yeah. And for Hadjar, it's like he has to stay closer to max than any of the others have done. Then I would say, then
Yeah.
very good. But Behrman, it's like that would be impressive. I would be very impressed if he manages to take the team upwards. It's also not that difficult of a bar to clear because
Yeah.
yeah. So I can see it. I can see Behrman.
Okay. Talking about the final two topics, I think. Uh, who do you think has the best driver lineup in 2026? Before you answer that, I will take McLaren off the board entirely because after finishing P1 and P3, I will correct myself. P1 and P3 in the World Driver Championship last year and being easily the best driver pairing of 2025. I think they are the sure bet to be number one for next year as well. But apart from McLaren, who do you think is the best driver lineup?
You could frame it as being Cadillac in a way because I think I think they have the best for what they need. I think they have the best driver lineup.
Okay, yeah.
They need development. They have two big development drivers.
Mm-hmm.
I think last year I said McLaren, but like
Yeah.
I
I think Ferrari would have been number two for us.
I think it's between Ferrari and Williams, and I think maybe I went Williams, and I'm gonna do it again. I think Williams still have a very impressive driver lineup. But I
Mm-hmm.
could also see Mercedes, to be honest, because Russell impressed me a lot in 25,
Yeah.
and Antonelli was, didn't drown. Second year is where we can start to see how good is Antonelli proper.
Yeah.
So I could see it being shaking out to be Mercedes, but I'm gonna take Williams just because I think Sainz is that good. Albon, I think just, you know, he might be at his peak, but that peak is still high. Like that peak is still very high. And Sainz, I just think is excellent. Like Sainz, I could see
Mhm.
on the off chance Williams absolutely nail these regulations and become the
Yeah.
quickest car, then I think Carlos Sainz is going to be World Drivers Champion. That's the level I hold Williams at. Well, that's the level I hold him at. Where like
Mm-hmm.
some other teams, if by some miracle Haas hit the jackpot and they have the fastest car, I don't think Behrman is going to be champion. Is the thing.
Yeah.
But if Williams do, then Sainz is going to be champion. That's sort of how
Mm-hmm.
how I'm, weighing this up in my mind.
Yeah.
Um, and then Albon is just again development. Everybody says he's a genius with development. Sainz as well. Going into
Mm-hmm.
new regulations, I think they've done excellent work in the off season. If I had to bet on it, I would say, of course, yes.
Yeah.
And Albon is a consistent point scorer. He's a consistent driver who can end up in good positions a lot of the time. He can make the best out of pretty much any race, especially on odd strategies as well. Like we saw in past couple of seasons with Albon and Williams, we've seen a lot of long runs. We've seen a lot of sort of odd strategy moves, and they worked out because Albon is that good a driver. And then Sainz just has that peak. He has that sheer peak where he can really bring it home. And it was a difficult year for him adjusting to Williams last year. Like parts of the year were very good, parts of the year were very poor. But
Yeah.
next year I think it's going to be mwah. I think it's for me that's the best driver lineup overall. So what about you?
Yeah. I think I probably have to dock Williams just a little bit because neither of them have actually been in a title battle yet. And even if they have the best car, I still think, like Albon in particular, I'm not sure if he will be able to cope up with all the pressures that would require a constructors title battle.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to dock them just a little bit there. But I think next year I'll flip completely from my 2025 prediction. Mercedes is definitely going to be number two in terms of driver lineup strength.
Mm.
I will basically the same reasons as you said. I predicted George Russell to be found out as basically a fraud this year because I was basically betting on that he would just out shined strong better than dying Lewis in terms of where his career is at. And I just felt that Lewis was sliding down more than Russell was sliding up. But last year, I think there is an argument that after Max, George Russell was the second best driver of the entire season.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So, yeah, based on that and the fact that I'm still high on Antonelli, the second places he had at Interlagos was very impressive towards the end of the season, bouncing back from terrible time races in the middle. So I think overall, it's between the Mercedes power teams overall and McLaren, Williams, and Mercedes, but I will give the edge to Mercedes over Williams, I think.
Yeah. Also quite damning that you say that, quite rightly that you say that George Russell was the second best driver behind Max.
Yeah.
And Norris isn't even top two, and he won the
No,
championship.
Norris isn't even. Norris is barely top five.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
because we have Leclerc in there, we have Oscar Piastri in there as well. That's going to be your top four.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
Speaking of top positions, let's finally close the show out with hot takes and predictions.
Mhm.
Quack, I'll give the World Drivers' Championship to you. Who do you think is taking the trophy this year? What's your prediction for it?
See, it's very unknown, and I could go for Piastri as the
Hmm.
McLaren. I could go for George Russell because I said before I'm quite bullish on Mercedes.
Yeah.
I am gonna back Max though. I think this is a bounce back year for Max. I think Red Bull. I said it was a coin flip. I think it's gonna land heads. I think they're gonna have a quick car. Maybe not the quickest car. They
Yeah.
don't need the quickest car. Max
Mm-hmm.
is that good. I think he's gonna adjust quickly to these regulations. Um, and I think I'm gonna back my driver. I'm gonna back and say that Max is gonna win his fifth championship in 2026.
Yeah. Just to be a bit different so we don't end up repeating it, I'll take the other driver from that equation. I'll go with Oscar Piastri. I think I have much less faith in Mercedes than you do, as we discussed earlier. And for that reason, I think McLaren will be the best Mercedes powered team in this era as well. Because
Yeah.
they turned the development off early enough that they should be fine for next year. So because of that, I'll just go with McLaren as a World Drivers' Championship contender, and because Lando Norris is Lando Norris, it will be Oscar Piastri.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
leads into the constructors champion as well. For me, it's probably McLaren again. Depends on the engines a lot, as we have discussed so much this far. But I just think as a driver lineup, as a duo, they are going to perform at a level high enough required to win a constructors championship over somebody like Antonelli may still have a couple of races where he's struggling. Hazard may still have times where he's just not there with Verstappen. So because of that, combined with the all the predictions for the engines and the cars that we have done, I think McLaren takes the constructors for the third year in a row.
Yeah. You'd think so, and it's again having the strongest driver lineup as well. Almost bar huge disasters from either one of them, you would expect McLaren to be able to finish, have at least have both drivers win in the top five
Yeah.
consistently race to race, and that is construction
Mm-hmm.
championship winning. That's just the fact. Um, so I think I'll agree with you. I'll give a small edge to Mercedes, I think, because again, I'm quite bullish on them. I'll give
Yeah.
a small edge to with the good engine, maybe hitting the jackpot with the regulations after quitting quite early in the previous years.
Mm-hmm.
So I might say them.
Okay, finally, we tend to do this a lot, even if it always backfires in our faces. 2026 hot takes. Last year, the most famous hot take that we did was Quacke's prediction that Antonelli would win a race and somehow still end up with less than 49 points in the entire season, making him the worst debut Mercedes driver. And he definitely did not do that. He neither won a race nor was he as bad as predicted. So Kaike, what's your first hot take for this season?
Williams make top four in the constructor championships.
Ooh,
They
okay.
displace one of the big top four. And if I
Mm-hmm.
had to bet on it, it would be Ferrari. But
Ferrari.
yeah,
Yeah.
but also nobody else passes them because again, I said Aston Martin. I think have done a lot of interesting moves. We
Mm-hmm.
barely talked about them, but I think they are like big investment, good staff, a lot of it taken from Red Bull. We could
Yeah.
see a big thing here. New engine as well. We don't
Mm-hmm.
know how the Honda is going to be, but the Honda engine has been pretty good in past years.
Yeah.
So, and on the off chance that Mercedes, don't get their engine correctly, that's a lot of teams that have a Mercedes engine which are going to suffer. If Honda gets a better engine than Mercedes, Aston Martin, we
It's
might be
just
looking
us.
at going
Yeah.
P3. But no matter what, my hot take is going to be that Williams displaces at least one of the teams. And if I had to bet on it, it would be Ferrari. But it could be Red Bull as well. It could be both of them. Like Williams could be top three. So,
Yeah.
but I'm going to say top four. And I think that is a hot take. Considering the gap we had last year, I think it is a
Yeah,
hot
for
take
sure.
to say they're going
Yeah.
to be top three.
Yeah, I'll just continue off your hot take then. Ferrari might be displaced by Williams, but it is also going to lose their big $100 million signing as well. I think Lewis Hamilton calls it a day after 2026.
Uh huh.
The car is not likely to be at the very front. Like, have we seen any indications from Ferrari that they will suddenly be the best team on the field? Maybe not.
Hmm.
They haven't done that in like 20 years at this point. So Probably not. And on top of that, I think Lewis just did not show me anything. Like, even in the last Mercedes year where George Russell was comfortably the better driver, Lewis was still rapid when he had his car under him. Like, you remember Las Vegas, he fell back from the positions because I think it was a poor qualifying or something like that, and just had a brilliant drive back up to P2 to complete the 1-2 for Mercedes.
Yeah.
I think that is the sort of drive that we just did not see in Ferrari. He was content just, I will take overtake 10 cars, then once I run into even Yuki Tsunoda in a Red Bull, which should not be that hard to overtake. Like we've seen Ollie Behrman and Haas do that. Ferrari and Lewis Hamilton just sit there and they're like, okay, this is where we end the race. So I don't think that I see the energy to keep going from Lewis.
No.
And he has seen how bad the Ferrari era can be. So unless they just get on to the top of the podium immediately for next season, I think Lewis just calls it a day at the end of the year, and we see Ollie Behrman replace him.
I'm ready to agree. That's entirely reasonable to me. I think that honestly, I agree. That is gonna happen. I don't think Lewis drives a Formula One car in 2027.
Okay. Anything else from you?
I do have one more, and I'm wrestling with this. Fernando Alonso race win.
Oh, okay.
Finally, again.
Any
I feel,
context for that? How is that going to happen?
I feel like last year I was basically saying that every team and every driver was gonna have a big step up in 2025, and every team was gonna move forward. And I feel like I'm doing it again when I say that, Haas might move forward, Aston Martin might move forward, Williams is gonna move forward, Audi are gonna be higher than Sauber, Cadillac are not gonna be that shit. I'm basically just putting everybody in front of Alpine.
Yeah.
And RB. I'm not that bullish on RB either, but yeah. Like, I feel like with new regulations, the track to track difference is going to be quite big between different cars and between different drivers, like week to week as developments happen as well. It's a gamble on like who is going to be good, who is going to take a step forward. Aston Martin might do quite well. I think they also quit their 25 development quite early to move on to 26. Like the first day you were allowed to work in 26, like Alonso was in the factory, which is a PR thing. But like, yeah, and Newey's here and all of that.
Yeah.
I could just see like a freak weekend where we already saw some very good qualifying results from Alonso last year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Where he just puts it in like a podium position in qualifying. Maybe some rain gets thrown in, something happens, he gets into that leading position and manages to win a race. So it's also just been a long time coming. I'm surprised, honestly, like I'm surprised we didn't even see an Alonso podium last year, to be honest. Even if Aston Martin was quite weak and he had a lot of bad luck.
I mean, basically every other midfield team got a podium at some point. Like
yeah,
Haas,
that's true.
Even Haas was P4. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like very close to those podium paying positions, and Alonso just wasn't really there. Like even when he had these big qualifying moments, it's like I think at some point in 2025 he qualified P2 in one of the later races. I think he was, or maybe he was.
I think it might be P3, but yeah, he was up there.
There was one of I think it might have been Qatar, where he was. Let me check super fast just to see what the complete Formula One results. Jesus, this is a long one. He didn't finish higher than 5th, and that was in Hungary. And I'm pretty sure in Qatar he qualified very well. I think maybe also in China, but he retired from that. There was, or maybe it was just like one qualifying session where he was very good. But in Hungary he qualified P5 and finished P5. In Qatar he qualified P8, but he had a quicker time in Q2 than he did in Q3. And that Q2 time was quicker than several of the drivers ahead of him.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, whatever the case was, we saw flashes, and I think it's about time that one of these flashes converts into something. So podium wouldn't really have been a hot take enough. I'm gonna go with the win.
Yeah, I think I will largely agree with you on that. If there is even one race where the Honda Aston Martin package is one of the fastest cars of the field, then I think Alonso will be there to catch that win. And he will just put everything in his career has built up to into that race, and then just announces his retirement at the end of
Yeah,
2026 alongside his best friend Lewis Hamilton.
I could see that. Having the second time of Fernando Alonso doing retirement donuts in Abu Dhabi with
Yeah.
Lewis and Max probably.
Yeah,
Uh,
one final hot take for me then to
yeah.
round out the show. After we have dogged on Alpine for the entire podcast, I'm going to predict them to not be P11 or P10. I think someone else will fail the jump to the new cycle worse than they will, and just somehow maybe Gasly gets a free podium somewhere. He gets a bit of points for the team. Something will happen, and Alpine will not finish in the bottom two. Like Cadillac, I expect to be in the bottom two anyways because they are the new team. But I don't think Alpine will be the one joining them there.
It's fair to say that. I can't back it. I can back Gasly. Gasly, I think, has been excellent, and last year as well, he was very good, very like
Yeah,
under the radar good. I can't remember which stat it was. It was
I think he had nearly as many Q3 placements as
yes,
Lewis Hamilton or something.
like out of the entire grid, I think he had a top 10, like
Yeah.
in the upper 10 drivers in terms of amounts of Q3 appearances.
Mhm.
And I was like, what the fuck? Or it might have
Yeah.
been non Q1 eliminations, but whatever the case, yeah, like he was better than a lot of the other drivers.
Yeah.
And he still finished P18 in the championship because he had like 11th, 13th, 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 15th,
Yeah.
13th. I can see how this would convert, especially under new regulations where we don't really know what's happening. I could see how this could convert into like a successful Alpine season. But we also had Colapinto who just didn't score in the entire year.
Yeah.
Like you
Fair.
had Pierre Gasly, he had a 7th, 8th, 6th, 10th. He managed to get these finishing positions. Colapinto couldn't do better than 11th, and he did it once. The other races, he's like P14 or lower in pretty much all of them. P15 or lower in all of them. It's
Mhm.
it's bad. So we'll see about that. But yeah, I agree with that. Can I just throw in one hot take? I don't really believe in this, but I just
Yeah,
want to
sure.
go for one more. Big fallout between Piastri and Norris. One of them.
Ooh.
I'm not. I'm not. I wanted to say one of them leaves McLaren, but I'm not sure that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
McLaren lose the driver's title because of infighting between Piastri and Norris, and I think I said that last year as well. And this year, I think it might happen.
It nearly happened last year. It was 2
Yeah.
points at the very end. Yeah.
Yeah. So because of Inter, you will be able to pin McLaren not winning a drivers' championship on some incident or several incidents between Norris and Piastri. That's my hot take.
Okay. With that final bombshell, let's wrap up the podcast. Quacke, thank you so much for joining us again. Hopefully, this year we will have a little more consistency in our uploads since we both are doing all this stuff full time now. So
Yeah.
let's hope for more episodes this year than the 4 we did last year, and hope you all have a good one. Thank you.